So hi, this is Lisa Khera from In Balance Pilates. Welcome to this mat work that we're going to do, and I'll be sure to get this replay out to you. So we're going to get started with a mat. You can have your water as well. We will get started tonight in a seated position. So if you're comfortable seated cross-legged, then go for that. If you're more comfortable with the legs out in front, or even perhaps sitting on a chair, you do whatever is most comfortable for you for this evening. And as we're seated, we want to just kind of think of those natural curves of the spine. So you can think of like a string kind of lengthening you up through the spine. It's really helpful if you feel like you tend to slouch at the end of the day, kind of coming back to that string lengthening you up is very helpful. And then as we're sitting, we'll just think about kind of opening up through the collarbone, so widening across the front of the chest. And then picturing your shoulder blades just gently gliding back together in a V. Or open across the front, gliding the blades back, and you can let the arms relax. So breathing in, we'll take an inhale through the nose, filling up the backs and sides of your ribs, inhaling through the nose. And then as you breathe out through the mouth, doing what's called a pursed lip breath. So again, we'll inhale through the nose, filling up the backs and sides of the ribs. On that exhale, it's like you're blowing out candles, blowing out through a straw, and it's that forced out expiration that actually helps contract a muscle called transversus abdominis. And that's one that really stabilizes around the waist. That's what gives you that core stability. So if we're thinking about the ribs, you could either keep the hands there or bring them to the rib cage. I just want you to think of on that inhale, the ribs are opening out to the side, kind of like an accordion. So we'll inhale, open the ribs to the side, and then exhale, let the ribs glide back in, gliding in. So inhale, open, the rib cage breathing into the backs and sides, exhale, gliding the ribs back in, kind of gliding those shoulders down. And again, inhale, think of that accordion, so breathing into those lower lobes of your lungs. Exhale, gently gliding your ribs back in. And then one more like that. Inhale in through the nose, filling up the lower lobes, that three-dimensional breath. And then exhaling, gliding the ribs in. So that type of breath where you're breathing in deep to the backs and sides, exhaling through that straw, it helps to really get that oxygenation through the blood, helps to bring you that focus, really helps calm the brain and body. And you can use that any time of day to just really stop and focus and take a little bit deeper, wider breaths. And then, as I mentioned, it's that forced out breath that helps activate transversus. So even when you're going to lift something or rotate or pick something up, getting in the habit of engaging that core kind of corset around the waist, that transversus abdominis, with that breath is a really good stabilizer for the low back and that whole kind of lumbo-pelvic region. So from there, what we're going to do is, if we're sitting up tall, we're going to think of like a cat stretch. So if we're tall through the body, inhale. As you exhale, just round through your low back. So you're going into like a C curve, rounding the spine, exhale it, and then inhale, come back up tall. And then again, we'll exhale, scoop in through the abs, round back. And inhale, lengthen, back up tall. Last one, exhale, scoop in through the abdominals, trying to kind of hollow out that curve. And then lengthen it all the way back up tall. We'll just reach our arms straight out in front. So if I was doing this in this position here, as we breathe in, we're going to protract. So we're going to separate the shoulder blades, reaching forward, and then exhale, just glide your shoulder blades back together. So it's a small movement. And facing this way, it's again just an inhale. Keep the hands shoulder width apart. Exhale, glide your shoulder blades back. So breathe in, separate, protract the shoulders, the scapula. Exhale, retract, glide the shoulder blades back. And one more. Breath in forward, and then exhale back. And nice, we'll just take the arms down the side. So then keeping the hands at the floor there, we'll inhale and shrug the shoulders up. And then exhale, glide the shoulders down away from the ears. So again, that gentle shrug up, just that mobility for the blades, gliding them down the back. Two more. Inhale, glide the shoulder blades up. It's getting that mobility. And last time, sliding the shoulder blades up and gliding them back into that V. So just that small movement. We will go to the back now. So you're gonna be lying on your back. If you need that small pillow, you can grab that. We will just roll down if that's comfortable, or go to your side and go back, depending on how your body feels with mobility, and listen to your body for today. So with Pilates, we're thinking about a lot of times that neutral pelvis and spine. So neutral being, if you think about your hip bones and your pubic bone being very level, or if you think about the natural curves of your low back. So I'm not overly arched where that's tipped down, nor I'm not squished into that posterior tilt where that's tipped upward. So you want to find that neutral pelvis, that little natural curve, and things are level through the pelvis. So what you can do is just find your hip bones, those bony landmarks at the front, bring your fingertips just inside, and they're just resting there. And then again, just let the collarbones open, chest open up, blades kind of back into that little V. So we'll breathe in through the nose, again, filling up the backs and sides of the ribs. And then exhale, think of blowing out through that straw. So it's as though you're just gently letting the belly button draw inward, feeling it kind of go taut between those two hip bones. So again, inhale into the lower lobes of your lungs. As you breathe out, you're thinking of that girdle. So pushing the air out, that gentle girdle draws in around your waist. And we'll do two more. Inhaling into that back, that accordion. Exhale, gliding the ribs in, pulling that gentle transversus around the waist, staying in neutral. Then from here, we're going to go in from a neutral pelvis there. Everything's in that position. Breathe in. On your exhale, just a small pelvic tilt. So exhale to tilt the pelvis. That small rock. Inhale back to neutral. So again, as we breathe out, you bring your hip bones, just sliding them closer to the ribs, and then back to neutral. Again, we'll exhale to contract, to tilt. Inhale, eccentric, kind of lengthen it back. Last two, exhale to rock the pelvis. The hands are out of the way. Inhale, neutral. One more there. Breath out, rock the pelvis. Inhale, neutral. Then we're going to think about both sides of the pelvis. So right side, left side. Inhale and send the right hip towards the ceiling, just that subtle tilt. And then exhale back to level. Left side. So exhale to, or inhale to rotate towards the ceiling. Exhale back level. Right side. Inhale. Small hip rotation, a little bit of low back rotation, and center. One more here, small rotation, and back to center. And then just move the hips. Make sure nothing's feeling too tight. Just kind of give it those baby movements, those little baby steps. And then again, we'll go back to thinking about keeping things in that neutral pelvis. So hip bones, pubic bone are level. So make sure you're not taking any tension in the neck and shoulders. So everything's level through there. We'll reach the arms straight above. So same thing that we did in our seated position, that protraction, retraction. So chest is nice and wide. As we inhale, we're reaching up to the ceiling. On that exhale, gliding the shoulder blades back, small V. really small, subtle movement. So inhale, separate your blades, reach the hands to the ceiling. Exhale, glide the blades back. But you're just not going back so much that it's popping the ribs. So that gentle contraction. Inhale, protract, and exhale, retract. Gentle movement. One more. Forward and back into that small V. And then we'll just reach the arms just to where that range feels comfortable for you, and then back to center. So we'll do a little bit of a scissor now. So again, think of the shoulders still lengthening away from the ears, and that tension. Breath in there. On our exhale, we're going to scissor the arms. One reaches down, one reaches back. Inhale, back to that middle. And then again, exhale, thinking of that girdle. Inhale, floating the arms back to the middle. Exhale, thinking of the abdominals to support. Inhale, floating the arms back to center. Exhale. Inhale, reach. Last time there. Exhale, reach. And inhale, bring it back in. If that scissoring felt all good, we're going to add one thing to it, just a good little coordination for the brain. So what we'll do is right arm's going to go back, left arm's going to go down. So same movement. We'll inhale to scissor the arms. And then as we breathe out, circling them to those two opposite points, and then back to center. And then other way, we'll inhale, split, exhale to circle, and inhale to return. One more on both sides. Inhale, split, exhale, circle, that windmill of the arms, and back to center. Last one here. Inhale, split, exhale, circle, and center. It's good, as I said, coordination for the brain. And then you can just float those arms back down. If that one was super confusing, do not stress out. It is definitely a coordination one. So always good to challenge the brain that way. So we'll bring the arms down at the sides again. Just keep opening up that chest, that gentle little glide into the V. Think about that neutral pelvis, so not going into that overly arched position, nor tilting it the other way, that nice neutral. And then we'll just let the knee fall out to the side. So right leg first, inhale. As you exhale, let the knee fall out towards the floor. Inhale, bring it back to center. Same side. Exhale to let it fall out. Inhale, back to center. Picture if you had two headlights shining from your hip bones on the ceiling. So we're working to use those stabilizers to keep the pelvis nice and still. So that again, I'm not going so much that that hip bone is opening right out to the side and kind of rotating each vertebrae. I'm going to think about those vertebrae staying nice and still. Two more. Exhale down. Inhale up. Last time, breath out. Inhale in. Nice work. We'll just reset everything. Make sure the neck and shoulders are comfortable, low back's comfortable. And then again, a breath in. Exhale, let the left knee go out. Inhale, back to the center. Again, exhale it towards the floor. Just as much range as you can keep those headlights facing forward, out, and bring it in. Last two, exhale down, inhale up, and one more, exhale out, and inhale in. Nice work. And then just again, those baby movements through the pelvis, just kind of windshield wiper the knees, a bit of range of motion for your low back. And then we'll bring one knee into the chest and release that side. And then other leg, knee comes into the chest and release that one. And then you can either turn onto the side to come up, or you can hold on behind the leg or do a roll up to come up, whatever is most comfortable for you. Always ways to listen to your body. So we're going to go on to all fours now to do a couple of cat stretches. As I mentioned before, if for any reason your wrists don't like being on all fours or the knees don't like kneeling, you can always do cat stretches in seated or even a standing position. So listen to your body. And then otherwise, we're going to bring the hands right under the shoulders, the knees right under the hips. And in this position, we just like to think of it's almost like you're not sinking in towards the floor. You're going to press your body nice and strong away from the floor. And then your head is in one long line with the rest of the spine. So I'm not going to be overly looking up nor letting the head hang down. Just thinking about that long posture. So cat stretches, we'll take a nice deep breath in, filling up the back. On that exhale, we're going to go from the tailbone and just round all the way through to the head. And then a deep breath in there, and then exhale and just lengthen back out to neutral. A long line, inhale there, and exhale, scoop through the abs, round it in. Breathe in, and then lengthen all the way out. That long neutral, inhale there. Exhale, scoop and round. Breathe in. And then lengthen all the way back out. And then we'll just come up off of those wrists. Just go in the opposite position. Just bring the wrists into opposite position. Okay. And then from there, you're still on all fours. What you're going to do on this one, we're going to think, so we talked about when we were lying on our back of what it felt like to be in that neutral pelvis, where you've got your hip bones, pubic bone level, you've got that natural curve through your low back. This is a good one. If you think of, if you had one of these weighted balls or like a glass of water, visualize that you're going to have that on your low back, and we're trying to keep that table position. Okay, so we're coming back to same position with hands right under the shoulders, knees right under the hips. And we're going to take the right leg and slide it out. So everything's nice and straight. We'll just flex through that foot. So you're leading with the heel. And then as you breathe out, we're going to take that straight leg up. Inhale down. Exhale it up. If the weight of the leg feels like it's just too much, you could take it down a notch by bending the knee and take that bent leg up. So modify if you need to, or we're going straight leg for the glutes to press and back in. Again, visualizing, do a few more there on that side, visualizing that table. If you had a glass of water right there or a weight, we're not going to knock it off side to side. Last one, exhale. And inhale in, and then bend the knee, bring it back in. For the other side, again, we could either take it from a bent knee or a straight leg, which is a bit more challenging. Exhale it up, inhale down. Again, trying to keep that table with the body so that I'm not bringing the leg so high that it arches or changes the back. If you need a modification, it would be that bent leg. Inhale in and down. One more. Exhale back and inhale. If you're comfortable to come back on to like in that kneeling position and just give the wrists a break, or kneeling in this position or seated just to give the wrists a break, listening to the body. And then our next exercise, we're going to be lying on the stomach just to do a little bit of extensions, mid-back extension. If you do a lot of computer work during the week at all, and you find, or even just at the end of the day, if you find that you tend to want to slouch, sometimes the muscles tend to want to just go in that position. These are really excellent for getting that muscle memory back into opening up through the front of the body and just strengthening the mid back. So what we'll do is lying on your stomach, You can either have your legs right together for this one, so tight together, feeling the inner thighs, or you could bring them about hip distance apart if there's any discomfort in your low back at all. Go for that, okay, whatever's best for you. So the first thing we're going to think of is wherever the shoulders want to kind of hang out, just allow them to be wherever they want to be. And the first thing we're going to do is just think about gliding the shoulder blades back into a V and then letting them completely relax forward. So just that shoulder blade movement. Breathe in and glide the shoulder blades back into your back pockets and then let them relax. So if I'm visualizing my blades here, I'm kind of rolling them gently back and down into those back pockets, okay? With the elbows staying on the floor. So just a couple more. Inhale, try to move the scapula, get that bit of mobility. No tension in your neck. Last one, gliding the blades back. And then release. So we'll go into a little bit of extension now, and you'll think about that same contraction of that girdle trying to gently just pull up away from the mat. Same movement with the shoulders. So as we inhale, we'll gently glide them back into that V. As we exhale, just opening up through the front of the body. Inhale there. And then exhale all the way down, letting the shoulders release. And then again, inhale, glide the blades back. Exhale, lifting. Like you're opening the collarbones, gliding your blades into your back pockets. And release, we'll do two more. Inhale, glide the shoulders. Exhale, lengthen. Notice that it's not a little bit of movement here and then just your cervical spine. You want to try to make sure when you're doing that extension that it's all kind of following that long line. And then everything is down. So take a breath there, let the back relax. Letting everything relax through your low back. Breathing in and then exhaling it out. And then on the next one, what we'll do is bring the legs hip distance apart, a little bit wider. Hands can be right under your forehead. So blades are still gliding into that small V. And we're just gonna lift one leg at a time, alternating. So we'll take a deep breath in. On the exhale, lift that left leg. So keeping it straight, lift the left leg. Inhale, replace it back down. And then other side, exhale, inhale to lower. Again, it would be like if you had that glass of water back here, you're trying to think about keeping that nice and still and stable through your back. It's almost kind of helpful to think if you had two separate scales under your hips that you're trying to not press one hip bone into the floor more than the other. So we'll do last one on both sides. Exhale, reach, inhale down. Last time here, exhale, reach, and inhale down. And then again, take a couple breaths, just let everything relax. You can move your hips side to side. And then I would say either stay there in that position if it's comfortable, or you could sit back into, if it's comfortable, a shell stretch. So you could either have the hands stacked to lift you up a little bit taller. You could bring the knees wider and bring your arms to the sides. Or if you like to reach those arms forward, and then just take two nice deep breaths there. So whatever position you're in, just focusing on that deep, full breath pattern. Just always so good. And then if you are in that shell stretch, nice thing, if either side of your back tends to get extra tight, you could, from those legs wide and arms reaching, you could just gently walk the arms over to one side. And then go back through center, taking them over to the other side. Breath in and then back through center, deep breath, and then coming back up. So always ways to find little spots in the body that need extra working out that tension, right? So let's just go on. We're going to go on to the back again. We're going to do a hip roll here. So sometimes in Pilates, when we do shoulder bridge, we're doing that when we're keeping that lumbar spine in neutral and working the glutes in that bridge. This one is also working the glutes and hamstrings, but also using it to articulate the spine, similar to that movement of a cat stretch. Again, so good for just releasing any stuck energy in the spine. You know, things can get so stiff in there. So find that position where your hip bones and your pubic bone are level. You're in that neutral, so whether it makes more sense to think of the front of your body, those bony landmarks, or your low back, natural curve. Find that nice open through the chest and lengthen the back of the neck. So we'll inhale from neutral. On that exhale, we're going to go through that tilt. Think of curling one vertebrae at a time as you roll it up until you're at your shoulder blades. We'll breathe in and then curl back down. So your mid-back vertebrae, low back vertebrae, and releasing one vertebrae at a time back to neutral. So again, starting there, inhale, exhale, scoop into the abdominals, curl it up, one vertebrae at a time, breathe in, and then curl it back down. Just think one vertebrae at a time, mobilizing the spine, getting that activation through the glutes. One more, inhale, neutral, exhale, curl it up. Inhale, and then curl it back down, one vertebrae at a time. Nice work. Just a little bit of lower abdominal connection. So we're going to keep our head and neck and shoulders out of this. There's definitely many things that we often do curled forward in that flexion, but for today we're just going to let the head and shoulders relax. So shoulders are still into that small V. We'll inhale, bring the right leg to tabletop. And then exhale, bring the left leg to tabletop. Okay. So shoulders into that good set position. We'll breath in. On the exhale, tap the right toe down. Inhale it up. And then left side, exhale and inhale up. If this ever feels like too much, you could keep one foot down and just do one leg into that toe tap. But if it feels good to have both legs up, going into that exhale down, inhale in. You want to feel some work right around your belly button, in between the, like around transversus abdominis. So all around the waist there, between the hip bones. Exhale, inhale in, breath out, inhale in, exhale. And last one there, breath out, inhale in, and then we're going to lower one leg and then the other. Nice job. We'll just keep the legs down where they are. Your pelvis is still in neutral. We're going to go into some arm circles. So arms are reaching, abs just gently pulled in. As we breathe in, reach those arms back. And then on that exhale, circle them around. So lengthening the neck again, we'll inhale, reach the arms back, and exhale, circle. You can make this circle nice and small, not making it too much of a big range. You can get more of a stretch and opening in through your pecs, depending on how you're feeling and how things are just through the chest. So knowing your body and listening to that range of motion. Last one, breath in, and then circling it around and letting the arms relax. So if we're looking straight ahead, we're just going to gently let the eye line go to the side, turn the head to one side, and then bring it back to center. And other side, just gently lengthening the head over and back to center. Last one on both sides. And center last time there. Over and bring it back to center. Nice work. We're going to turn on to the side. So it is so important to, you're going to be lying on your side, to strengthen and stabilize around the hips. So we often get so much with walking through the front of our hips and the back of the hips with our glutes, glute max, but getting into some side lying exercises are really, really awesome for the side of the hips, plus really stabilizing in through the low back. So if you're comfortable, best thing to do, I would say, is have your bottom arm bent, if that's comfortable, so that your head has a bit of a pillow and you're just like in that long line for your spine, or you could even get a small pillow. And you want your head and shoulders to be really comfortable. And then what we'll do is we will start by stacking those hips up. So your hips are going to be stacked. Again, think of that natural curve in your low back. So I'm not overly arched, but I'm not sinking in the other way. So we're in that nice little neutral position. Bottom leg is going to stay bent. We're going to bring that top arm forward, kind of roll the shoulders back. And then we'll take that top leg and reach it straight out and straight forward. Okay, so a little bit of that girdle, thought of that girdle around the waist. We'll inhale, reach the leg forward, and then exhale and press it back. You might go straight, you might go just a little bit further than that straight line, okay? So we'll use the inhale to kick the leg forward, and then exhale to press it back, but only as much as we keep that stability. Thinking about that with that Pilates style. Inhale, kick forward, and exhale, press it back. Starting to feel some work through the outside of the hip. Inhale forward, and exhale back. And last one, inhale it forward. As you breathe out, you're thinking of that girdle around the waist. And then you can bend the knee and let that leg relax. Just check into the body if you're not used to doing those side work. You'll start to feel some work around the hips. So listen to your body. You can take a break at any time. You never want to feel discomfort in your back. You want to get those abdominals used to drawing in around the waist and really giving you that support, okay? And never any tension in your neck. You want to feel like you're rolling that shoulder back and you've got that long length in your spine. So then from here, what we're going to do is we'll straighten out both legs. So we're going to take both legs out nice and straight and long. This is challenging that stability a little bit more. Let's just dorsiflex both feet. So it's like you have your flat shoes on. And then we are going to point the top leg. Okay, so rolling that shoulder back, we'll inhale to lift the leg just hip distance. Exhale, flex the foot, flat shoe, and then pull it back down. So inhale, point and lift to hip distance. Exhale, flex the ankle, bring it in with your inner thighs. Nice. Inhale, point and reach. And exhale, drawing that belly button in. Inhale to lift. Hip distance, exhale, bring it in. Awesome. 2 more. Inhale, reach. Exhale, good. Mobilizing that ankle. Last time. Every time you breathe out, think of that girdle, drawing abs in. Awesome. And then just let that leg relax. Nice work. Let's bend both of the knees again. So we're going to go into our clam exercise. Again, another great one to work those rotators in the hip, those deep rotators, which are also good for stabilizing that whole lumbopelvic region. We're going to keep the feet together. Think of those bony landmarks of your pelvis and hip bones staying right on top of each other. So if you have the hand there, we'll take a breath in. On the exhale, just turn that top knee out, and inhale, return back down. So breath in, exhale, turn it out, inhale, return. Exhale out, inhale in. Again, that girdle is drawing in around your waist, and return. You're gently gliding those shoulder blades back and return. Exhale out and lower. And again, I'm not going so much that the pelvis and low back is rotating. I'm going to keep the hips stacked and return. Last one. Exhale and return. Nice work. So again, hopefully you feel those rotators in the hip. We're waking those up. We'll do a nice Piriformis stretch for it after. While we're on our side here, we're going to do a nice one called Spinal Rotation. This is a really great one to do at the end of the day, or really any time of the day when you need to mobilize the spine, breathe, get the mind doing something that's very mindful and mind-body related. So still same position, bottom arm is bent under the head, and your head has that little pillow, and hips and knees are stacked. So we'll just reach our arm forward, still loosening it away from the ears. We'll take an inhale to reach that arm to the ceiling. And then as you breathe out, you're rotating back. If you need a modification, you could bend the arm and just place it on the ribs, or you can reach it back, inhale, and then exhale, close it back around. And then again, we'll inhale it up and exhale, rotate. Deep breath in and exhale all the way back around, finishing that last one here. Inhaling it to the ceiling. You can adjust where that arm needs to be if you wanted to change that length through your pecs, through your chest, and then all the way back around. Nice. And then just take a breath there before you move. Let everything relax. Just take a note of how things felt working on that side. You felt stability, feel the core, how the hips felt. And then what we'll do is come up to go to the other side. So you can either turn to the other side or flip to the other end of your mat, whatever's best for you. We'll start with that first one where we're bending the bottom elbow. So that's comfortable. And we'll have the bottom leg bent. And then we're going to reach the top leg. Okay, so shoulders are rolled back into that small V. We'll inhale, reach the leg forward, and exhale, press back. You might bring it just to the straight or a small amount of hip extension. Just be mindful of keeping that pelvis neutral. So stacking those hips as you activate the glutes and press. Inhale forward and exhale, press. Again, if that lever is too long, you could take the bent knee forward and take the bent knee back. A little bit more challenging is going to have that long leg. Inhale forward and breathe out. One more. Inhale, feeling that outside of the hip work to keep the leg lifted, and then lowering that leg down, letting it relax. Nice, so we're gonna stretch both legs out nice and long. We'll start with both ankles dorsiflexed, or those flat shoes, or flat heels, flat shoes. And then we're going to point the top foot away. Okay, so reaching that top leg hip distance, we'll inhale to lift it hip distance, and then flex and pull the inner thighs back in. So inhale, point and reach hip distance, exhale, flex and lower. Inhale, point and reach, exhale, flex and lower. So we're mobilizing that ankle joint, getting the brain again linked with what movements we want. Pointing it on the way up, flexing it on the way down. 2 more. Every time you exhale, think of that gentle girdle around the waist. And bring it in. Last one. Feeling that work through the outside of the hip. And bring it down. Let everything relax for a moment. And then we'll bring the hips and knees into that bend again. So we're going to keep the feet together, going into that clam shell exercise. So many different variations on this as well, whether you're using a resistance band with it, different placement with the feet, just to really target those hips. So again, we're going to keep the feet together, just still setting that shoulder back. Breathe in on that exhale. Turn the top leg out. Bent knee, inhale in. Exhale. So think of those muscles, those thigh muscles kind of turning deep into that hip, those rotators, lateral rotators. Your hip bones, those bony landmarks are staying faced forward so that your hips are stacked. There's no change of where your pelvis is. Turning that thigh out, rotating, thinking of that girdle, gently drawing in around your waist, exhaling it out, inhale, return, last 2. Inhale down, 1 more, and inhale down. And again, let that hip completely relax. We won't forget to do a piriformis stretch after that at the end. And then going into spinal rotation. So we'll reach the top arm forward. Again, still set both of those shoulders comfortably. Use the inhale to reach the arm up to the ceiling. Exhale, you're rotating back. Inhale there. And exhale, bringing it forward. Inhale it up. Exhale to open. Inhale to hold. And exhale forward. Last time there. Breath in. This one's so calming. Just as I said, really link the breath with the movement. If the pecs are feeling tight and tense, it's a great way to release them. You can always modify if one side needs less range of motion by placing the hand on the ribs. Always ways to modify. And then just let it relax there, neck and shoulders and back. And then from there, we're going to come up to a seated position again. So whatever's comfortable for you, whether it's the legs out in front or seated crossed, whatever really feels good for you, okay? And then we're just going to do a bit of rotation in sitting. So if the arms are comfortable reaching overhead, this would be one that we would reach it overhead. If that is too much pull in through the chest or pecs, you can even go for hands crossed and at the shoulders. So modify and do what feels good for today. Always ways to modify, okay? So from here, I just want you to just do a little circle with the shoulders, just a little like a shrug them up, inhale. And just exhale, let them draw down and away. And again, inhale. And the reason I want you to do this is just to feel the difference of when the shoulders are lifting and when there's that decrease and they're away from the ears a little bit, so that even though we're reaching the arms forward, we're going to try to get those shoulders into a more of a kind of posture pattern, whereas the arms are lifting, we're still able to get that little sense of widening the collarbones, little V kind of in the blades, so that as we lift, you're not taking that neck tension, especially if it's a time where we're feeling a lot of tension and stress. Sometimes we don't realize how much extra those shoulders are climbing up by the ears. So especially at stressful appointments and, just times of extra tension, try to notice how the body is dynamically moving and reacting and behaving, and try to just be a bit more gentle and loving to your muscles and those joints to make sure that they're not taking that extra unnecessary tension. So let's, again, as I said, they might be here, they might be forward. We're going to reach, inhale the arms up, and then we'll reach them all the way up. As we breathe out, we're going to rotate and drop the arms. And then we'll inhale, reach the arms as we come back to center, or arms are at the chest. If they're at the chest, we're inhaling and exhaling to rotate. That's without the arms lifting. And inhale, coming back to center. So listen to your body. Inhale. If we're adding the arms, we're exhaling to rotate and lower both arms so them drop down away from your ears. Inhale to reach the arms and come back to center. And again, exhale, stay tall and rotate. And then inhale, reach as we return back to center. And then we're just going to float both of those arms down. And then just have the arms down beside you. We're going to give those shoulders a little roll back and down. Just let that head lengthen over to one side. And then bring it back up, and other side, just lengthening it over. And bringing it back in. Nice. We're going to come back to all fours if you're comfortable on all fours. And on this one, what we're going to think of, again, that table. So we're pressing the body nice and strong away from the floor. So versus hanging out towards it, just pressing nice and strong. All you're going to do on this is support on the right hand. We're going to float that left elbow back into your side, and then float that hand back down and go onto the right side. So we're going to exhale to float that elbow up, hand lifts, back is staying in that nice table, and then float that hand back down. Inhale, exhale, lift that left elbow, keeping chest open, shoulders back and down, floating that hand down. And one more here, bringing it back and back in. Modification for that, you could definitely take that to the wall with less body weight, right? So that you're just doing like a little bit of a towards the wall and then bringing that hand in. It's a lot less body weight going through the wrist. So always ways to modify that one for sure. And then if you're comfortable, we're going to come back to a seated position. So if you're comfortable with one leg bent and one leg straight, we will do this. Just do a little stretch it forward. So listen to your body. You might bend the knee and just take it to a small hinge forward. That might be what your flexibility feels like it wants to do for today. You might want to straighten that leg out and take that hinge forward for a little bit less, or you might want to inhale the arms and then reach it forward wherever you end up. Let the hands relax, so that instead of reaching for the foot, we're actually bringing the hands back enough that that chest can stay open. You feel nice length into those hamstrings on that straight leg, a little bit into that low back. And then just take a deep breath in, and we'll come back up being really gentle with the body. And then let's take it to the other side. So the other one is straight and bent. And again, it might be bent and you're just taking that little hinge. You might straighten it and have a small hinge, or you might inhale the arms forward, and then wherever the body wants to be, you let the hands relax so that the neck is nice and long, the chest is open, shoulders are gently into that V. Inhale, and then come all the way back up. And then again, for a seated position, you might be seated with the legs out in front. You might be seated on a chair. You might be seated with the legs crossed. We're going to do a side bend. And then we're going to do that Piriformis one again. So, or that I mentioned before. So arms are beside you. You're just tall through the body. If you're sitting in this position, right arm will inhale and reach that right arm up. Again, reach it forward if it doesn't want to come all the way up. And then as you breathe out, we're going to bend that bottom elbow and just side bend over. And then all the way back up tall. Nice thing about Pilates is we like to spend time. Other side, we're going to inhale up, exhale over, is getting all the movements of the spine. So a bit of flexion, bending forward, a bit of extension, a bit of rotation, and a bit of this one side bending. We're going to do one more to both sides. Inhale the arm. Exhale, bend that elbow, stretch it over. This one's so nice because you can really play around with where in the back you need to feel it. So whether you're going more forward on the diagonal, or, you know, if you need to do a bit of it, it's whatever the spine needs just to get things moving and move that energy. And then that was the last one there. I'm going to show you that Piriformis, that hip stretch. So you could do this one. My favorite place to do it is with a stability ball. So I'm going to show you with a stability ball, but I'll also show you it without and with the wall. So if you are doing it with the wall, this takes the neck right out of it. What you do is you don't have to do this right now, but find a spot on your wall where you can get close to your wall. Bring your bent knees and your feet on the wall. This allows you to keep the head completely relaxed and the neck and shoulders relaxed. And then you cross that leg over to feel it in through that hip. Okay, so that's the wall version. And then I'll show you with the stability ball. So again, this one keeps the head and shoulders out of it. You've probably done it many times without the stability ball. Without is where we're crossing the leg over and holding on to the leg, which sometimes can just add extra tension there. If you're doing it with a big stability ball, head and shoulders are completely relaxed, your knees start straight, and then you're going to cross the leg over, same thing, pull that ball in. And then while you're here, again, head and shoulders totally relaxed. You could gently let that foot just gently go soft, like towards the floor a little. And whether you're doing a little bit of a side to side motion, it'll just really help loosen up all through that muscle. So if you don't have the ball and you want to just go into the one where you're lying on your back or using the wall and then crossing that leg over, do this one and then bringing that leg in. And we're just going to do a few breaths here. If you know this isn't good for your if it's not one to do, just leave it out for sure. And again, you might just kind of let that thigh go side to side. And taking those deep breaths, so really filling up the backs and sides of the ribs, relaxing the neck. And then we'll let that side relax. And other side, so crossing that other leg over. And again,
Just being mindful of the neck and shoulders, lengthening the neck, opening the chest, and breathing. Sometimes if it's a muscle that gets really tight or you feel any discomfort and we go to stretch it, it's somewhere where the body wants to hold the breath. So it's a really good chance to take those deep breaths. And then we'll let that side relax. And then from there, we're going to straighten one leg out and then the other. And you can either take the arms out to a T. Actually, we'll take them out to a T. And we're just going to, again, think of that breath. So as we inhale that accordion, so we'll inhale the ribs open. And exhale, the ribs gently glide in. And again, inhale, the ribs open. And exhale, they gently close in. And one more inhale, ribs. Think of that accordion. You're breathing into the spaces in between the ribs, and exhale and just gently letting those ribs melt back in at the front. And then we'll come up to seated position. And we are again going to be tall through the body. What I want you to think of is inhale to nod your chin. And then as you exhale, just think one vertebrae at a time. You're going to like peel forward off of a wall. You're just bending it forward. Deep breath in. And then exhale, stack the spine back up. So your low back vertebrae, mid back, and head. And we'll do that one more time. So inhale, nod the chin, and exhale, flex it forward. Deep breath into the lower lobes of your lungs, and then exhale and bring it back up one vertebrae at a time. And then we're just going to do that last upper trap stretch one more time. So you could either keep the hands on the knees, or you could bring them under, holding the feet or whatever. It's just to keep the shoulders down from your ears. We're going to do a little roll of those shoulders back, and then we'll tilt the head over. And then bring it back up, nice and tall. And then other side, lengthen it over. Just notice if one side, if you feel like you have more mobility from side to side. And bring it back in. Hopefully you feel like you have a little bit more mobility than when you started. But I want to thank you so much for attending this class. I'm going to